Well done, Wendy. You always do a great job. Welcome, everyone, to part 3 of Get Faster, Better and Stronger with your property management time. Today, we're going to be focusing on dealing with bad business and practices that can cause you time damage. Now, of course, bad business can cause all sorts of damage, but today we're really going to have a look at the time restraints, plus a number of other key areas that can affect our mental health as well. As Wendy said, today will be a pre-recording, and simply because sometimes when I'm doing webinars, I can't always be in my home office, which provides a stable environment, stable internet and so forth. Today, I wasn't sure. I'm actually right now sitting in a car outside McDonald's in a car park about 20 minutes before the Sunshine, not the Sunshine Coast, Central Coast in New South Wales. So because of that, it was best we do a pre-recording, which you will hear shortly. But before we get started, what I want to do is introduce to you one of our key sponsors to our live event that we did around Australia, which is Barclays MIS. Now, Barclays, before we bring Suzanne Bale into the session, Barclays, I'll tell you a story. A number of years ago, I was doing a live event in Sydney, and I had a principal turn up with 2 of his staff members, and they gave me 10 out of 10. All 3 of them gave me 10 out of 10 ratings. So they didn't have a problem with my session. But what actually happened is they never paid for the tickets. And it was about $500 worth, and they just simply wouldn't pay. They would ignore my phone calls. They would ignore my emails. We try and get hold of them. They would never return calls. They were just completely avoiding us, no doubt, just like a bad tenant likes to avoid you when they don't want to pay the rent. And for 4 months, this went on. Now, look, I'm not going to be implementing my zero tolerance practices that I teach with rent control on my clients. I don't do that. So in the end, these people exhausted me. I took my hands off. I gave one quick call to Barclays MIS. I spoke to Dave Banks there, and within 4 days, not only had he contacted the principal involved, but also got the monies paid, and it was sitting in my bank account. So Barclays MIS, of course, is a debt collection company that specializes in property management. So welcome, Suzanne, and over to you.
Thanks very much, Darren. As Darren mentioned, we are a debt recovery agency. My name's Suzanne Bale. Essentially, we specialise in residential and commercial tenancy debt. So unlike traditional debt recovery services, we actually offer a prepaid debt recovery service whereby a landlord can subscribe for $66 per annum per property, and any debt that arises once a tenant vacates, Barclay will actually recover those funds complimentary. So there's no fee for the legal costs, and there is no commissions on what we recover. Whatever we recover comes back to the agency to then be passed on to the landlord. We also offer a range of online services. Our online services cover things like your database, so when you're selecting a tenant, arrears SMSs, emails and letters, and phone calls to tenants, all coming from a debt recovery service. So essentially it's a third party's kick up the backside that some tenants need, and sometimes that's all they need to bring them back into line. I say to all of our clients that we are no better than you guys at sending the SMSs, emails or writing letters to your tenants. But the fact that it's coming from a debt recovery agency as opposed from a real estate agency, it just has a greater impact. We can also do office debt recovery for our clients, and for our platinum partners, we do that complimentary. So that relates to things such as vendor paid advertising, commissions and auction fees. So there's a lot in our product, $66 per annum per property. The real estate agency pays $0, so there is no charge at all to you guys. And yeah, it's a great package. It's available across Australia and New Zealand. If you would like to know any more information in relation to what we offer, we would love to come out and visit you. We have sales reps in each state. We can arrange a time to come and sit with you and explain it in further detail and show you all of our online services.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I just want to make a comment here. As an owner myself, I've just seen my agent charge me $66 for Barclays MIS services. And when I saw that charge on my rental statement, I actually looked at that and I thought, peace of mind. And that's how I felt towards my $66 investment. So, Suzanne, let's just say my tenant with my agent who's using your services in Adelaide, in the northern suburbs of Adelaide, let's just say that my tenant does get behind. And can I just state that my very, very, very first tenant was a fraudulent, what I call a professional tenant that knows the system inside out and played us hard for a whole year before we could finally get her evicted. Now, okay, my agent was very, very embarrassed because, hey, it's Darren Hunter. We don't want to do the wrong thing by Darren Hunter. But let's just say we end up with another bad tenant, gets behind in the rent. At what point do you guys get involved? How far does a tenant have to be in arrears before you guys step in?
Well, you can, by utilising all of the online services, you can actually start the arrears process with us as early as 4 days in arrears. So we give you access to the letters, emails and SMSs. You're in control of who you send them to, but when the tenant actually receives them, they do look like they come from Barclay. You can have us make a telephone call to the tenant if they're in arrears, and not just rent. We are also talking water, damage, if you've done a routine inspection and there's something wrong. So there is a range of templates that are available to agencies to utilise, but you can use it as early as 4 days in arrears. Part of the cover also has an eviction service, so inclusive of that $66 per annum, someone from Barclay would actually attend the eviction and remove the tenant from the property. Again, taking it from an OH&S perspective, from an agency's point of view, it takes you out of the firing line of the tenant. Barclay will be there to remove the tenant. We will do removal and storage of tenants' goods. And that, again, is all incorporated in that $66. So no additional charges for that service.
So at what point will you guys physically start chasing the tenant?
Once the tenant's moved out of the property, they've been either evicted or have left of their own accord, and a debt arises, we do encourage our agents to go to tribunal. Unfortunately, without a tribunal or a court order, it is not possible to legally enforce anything. So we do, obviously we can chase debts if there is no order, but if a tenant refuses to pay, there isn't a great deal we can do about it. Whereas once you have that order, we can enforce the order through the magistrate's court. We can garnish your wage, arrange centre pay deductions. There's a range of ways that we're able to recover the funds from the tenant, but it makes everyone's life a lot easier if we have that court order.
Yep. Okay, and just one last quick question, Suzanne, before we start our session. So let's just say my tenant's 4 or 5 days behind. At that point, can we ask you guys to start helping us with chasing the tenant, or what sort of involvement would you get at what early stage?
Okay, so we do train our clients in relation to using the online services, but as an agent, you would hop onto our website. You would be able to generate and send SMSs, emails and letters to your tenants, but they are looking as though they come from a recovery agency. So they're on our letterhead. They are coming from Barclay, but the agent is actually still fully in control of who they're sending them to and at what stage. But we do full training. We also will offer advice. So we have in-house legal department. So if there are any questions, problems, or you get a tricky tenant, maybe a lawyer, we are able to assist our clients in relation to how to deal with those matters and hopefully get a smooth transition to getting the tenant out of the property or getting the tenant up to date.
Well, Suzanne, look, some great information there, and I can see the total value. I wish you guys were around in my days as a property manager. It makes it so much easier than all the, having to go to magistrate court on behalf of the owner to get once we got the tribunal order, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, thank you very much, Suzanne. It's been awesome. And I've just put your details up on the screen here. Of course, you've got Suzanne Bale, her mobile phone number and email address is there as well. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for your help, and take care.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the session, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Alrighty, so moving right along, we are now going to go to the pre-recorded part of this session, which is part 3 of Get Better, Faster and Stronger with Your Property Management Time. Wendy, over to you. And just letting you know, guys, if you do have any questions, I'm going to be monitoring the chat room. I will be traveling in a vehicle, but I will be able to chat to you, and I'll be back in the room at the end to take any questions that you may have. Thank you, Wendy. This is Darren Hunter, and welcome to our web event, part 3 of Getting Faster, Better, Stronger with Your Property Management Time. And today we're going to be dealing with bad business and practices that can cause you time damage in property management. Just some housekeeping before we get started. Firstly, our terminology today, we have offices spread over 3 countries in Australia, New Zealand and the United States, but please be aware that we will be focusing largely on Australian terminology, and if I'm aware that other terminology is different, I'll do my best to make mention of that. With spelling, we will be using British spelling. Legislation, please apply everything to your legislation first. If I say anything that's contradictory to your state-based legislation, please make sure that your legislation is placed first. If you have any questions during this session, please leave any questions that you have for the end of the session, and we'll certainly cover it there. And also, there is a delayed response for any questions that we may ask, and it's about a 15-second delay from where you ask a question to where we respond to it, and then you'll get an answer. And with any recordings, you'll get that within 2 business days of today's session. All right, well, let's get started. Let's talk about using our time smarter, and let's talk about different ways that we can possibly use SMS text. Now, remember in parts 1 and 2, we talked about smorgasbord approach, which means I'm just giving you a whole heap of different tips that you can use and pick and choose what works for you. But if you feel that something is not going to work for you or maybe contradictory to your legislation, please pass it by and find something that does work for you. Well, firstly, consider sending an SMS text to any late rent serial offenders on the day the rent is due. Now, if they have a history of not wanting to pay the rent on time, don't feel that you shouldn't be able to then send them a late rent reminder on the day their rent is due. Now, it could be wording along the lines of, we wish to remind you that your rent is due today. If you're unable to pay today, please let us know today, or wording to that effect. Also, a smoke alarm tester reminder. Maybe ask the tenant just to test by pushing the tester button and to make sure it emits a beep. But please, of course, this does not in any way take away our responsibility as acting owners to make sure that these smoke alarms are proven working. And the only way to prove working is by using a smoke alarm technician. Now, if this one really is too contradictory to your legislation, please ignore that point. Also, you may be driving past a property and can see the lawn's 6 foot long. Maybe send them a mow the lawn reminder. There are some states out there, of course, that even if you let the tenant know that their lawn needs reminding, it's now deemed as a routine inspection, and you could be in breach because you didn't give 7 to 14 days notice. If you're not having to overcome that type of technical legislation, then mow the lawn reminder may help you. Now, with a routine inspection reminder, maybe sending them a text if they've got any dogs to make sure they're restrained, or there might be, say, 3 single people living in the house with 3 single or separate lifestyles. One person has your letter notice, the other 2 don't, by sending a reminder to all people that you have details of to let them know of the inspection. And also, if you're legally able to enter with the office set of keys, letting them know also that you'll be doing so as well. Some really good communication, being transparent. Okay, a thank you message. Now, so many times as property managers, we do routine inspections. We've got a lot of tenants that do the right thing. Make sure that you're thanking them and just giving them credit for the amount of work that they've done to make sure that the property looks really good. Sometimes a thank you message by SMS text will do that nicely. Also, a rent increase reminder. You may have sent them out your legal notice. In some cases, you may have to give 60 days notice. It depends on your legislation. But a week out, you might send them an SMS text as a reminder that just confirming as of next week, as of such and such a date, your rent will be going from and to, and just letting you know. Have any problems, please let us know. An SMS text, of course, is not your legal notice, but it's simply there as an add value reminder to overcome those complications where a tenant may forget to pay. Also, a tribunal or court reminder, maybe the day before, confirming when you're going to see them at tribunal or court. Also, when a tenant has reported a repair, confirming that you have appointed a tradesperson, or in America they call them vendors. A tradesperson has been appointed. Give the tenant name, contact details of the person that has been appointed for that particular job. Also, making sure that work has been completed as well. So you may have received an invoice from your tradesperson or vendor, and you simply send an SMS text just confirming, Mr. Tenant, that we've received a invoice confirming a drippy tap has been fixed, just confirming the job has been done and completed, because sometimes tradespeople will invoice you and haven't actually done the work. This keeps your tradespeople accountable, and on top of it, should a tradesperson do the wrong thing. Also, confirming the tenant induction appointment, sending them an SMS text the day before that they're due to come to the office and sign up, and confirming what time, how long the appointment will take. Making sure that all head tenants are present, what type of payment is required. Also, the address or the location of the signing. I don't know how many times when I didn't do this, the tenants would actually go to the property and wait for me there to sign them up, when in fact it was at the office. So it's covering issues like that. Also, with application processing at the start that you're starting to do the work and process, maybe just check with the tenant to make sure that they're still wanting to go for the property. Sometimes they've changed their mind and haven't even told you, or you just need to SMS text them for any missing information to help you complete the application processing. Also, any emergency repairs when being done, letting owners know, just SMSing, texting, letting them know an emergency repair has been done. Once you've got full details and idea of cost, you'll be in touch. Also, posting or delivery of a termination notice. You may let the tenant know by SMS text that a regulated or a termination notice is actually coming. Also, a water payment reminder for the states out there where we need to go to the tenants and collect the water on, or the water payment on, the owner's behalf. This is a real struggle, an area to get tenants to pay on time, just like your rent increase reminder. Also, sending out a week before or a few days before their water payment is due, another reminder that they need to pay their water. Okay, you might actually find the SMS text will be very useful in that particular area. And maybe a final inspection reminder as well, wording along the lines of just confirming this Friday we're seeing you at your property at 2 p.m. Please make sure that you followed our checklist. Click here, supply the link, and please let us know if the property is not 100% ready, as we are not able to start the inspection unless the property is 100% clear and clean and ready to go. Okay, so using an SMS text just to reinforce communication that perhaps has already been sent out. Okay, now let's talk about using an email autoresponder and take control. You see, the issue is that when an owner or a tenant sends you an email, if you haven't responded, then it's now their expectations that rule. And if you're dealing with hundreds of tenants and landlords, they've all got different expectations of how they expect you to deal with their email. So an email autoresponder lets them know straight away what the right expectations are. So an email autoresponder doesn't necessarily have to be something that you use on annual leave or when you're on sick leave. It can be used all the time. So when their email does arrive, instantly they are told what right expectations are and how you're going to be handling their email. So consider this wording. Thanks for your email. We kept busy with out of office appointments and regretfully were unable to respond to your email straight away. However, please be assured we will return your email within 24 hours. Or it could also add on, however, if it's an emergency, please call us immediately on this number here. Okay, and you'll find that that wording there allows you to take a lot more control on how you use your email responder when it comes to setting right expectations with your owners and tenants, and probably is going to help you deal with things a lot better and keep you in control. Also, let's talk about using your message bank and taking control. You see, people are happy to leave a message if they believe that your voice message is fresh and current. So you could use wording along the line of, "Hi, this is Darren. Today is Thursday, the 28th of May, and I'm out of the office conducting inspections. Please leave your name, number, and your message, and I'll be returning your call after 1 o'clock today," or something like that. But it's certainly better than, "Hi, Darren here. Sorry, I'm away from my desk at the moment. Please leave a message." It's that type of message that people don't want to respond to. So again, another key here on to take control by using an effective message bank. Now, also, let's talk about effectively switching off after hours and recharging. I'm one of these trainers that really believes that if you're going to perform properly at work and give you 100% at work, you need to be switched off 100% after hours to recharge so you can come and give you 100% at work. And so I'm a real believer in work-life balance, or I don't care how passionate and how motivated you are for property management, burnout is a real risk for you, and you want to avoid that, of course. So here are some hints and tips to help you. Number one, induct your tradespeople on after-hours calls. I really believe if you get yourself organized, you shouldn't be taking calls after hours. Now, the only real reason why a person may want to call you after hours would have to be repairs related. So in the repairs area, get yourself set up for that. Think outside of the square. Who is a plumber, electrician, maybe a handyman you'd use after hours? Who are they? Go and contact them, the people that you trust. Go and see them, speak to them and say, "We would like you to take calls after hours. Would you be available for that?" Yes, that's great. Okay, if you do get a call, then this is what an emergency is for plumbing. This is what an emergency is for electrical. If you get a call from one of our tenants and it's of this nature and you deem it to be an emergency, then you have our permission to go to the property and get the work done. Send us an invoice and then we will deal with that on the next working day. So get your tradespeople set up. Also, have an effective after hours message bank. And so where if tenants do call after hours, it would be along the lines of, "Hi, this is ABC Real Estate. You've come to our after hours service. If it's an emergency repair, please call such and such, or go to our website and you'll have after hours emergency repair information there." And if on your website you have a page there detailing in detail what an emergency repair is and what they can do. You use your website as a tool that's going to work for you instead of simply just being a glorified business card online. Also, switch off your mobile phone. So if you've got your repairs now sorted and you've got an effective after hours message bank, then consider switching off your mobile phone as well. Also, educate your owners and tenants on your availability. Let them know that you are available, but for example, by appointment, but also you're not available after hours. And you can leave a message or attend to it in the next working day. It's just if you're not giving them any real expectations, then their expectations rule and reign. And that's where we get into problems. So let people know of your agenda and your availability up front, and you're not available in general after hours. Now, there are also other offices out there that go to the extent of not giving out their mobile phone number. And they do that very, very successfully. Don't think or have a mindset where you feel it's impossible, where you can't, where you feel that you have to give out your mobile number. Well, perhaps you don't need to. Also, at the end of the day, deal with all the big issues before you go. What are those things that could crowd your mind and cause worry and stress later on that are pressing on your mind? Well, perhaps deal with it all before you go home, so you can walk out knowing in confidence that all the big stuff's been dealt with. Keep your mind clear, and then you're going to be all ready and confident and refreshed for the next day instead of worrying about issues overnight. Also, write out your to-do list before you leave your work as well. And so again, brain dumping absolutely everything out, clearing your mind, having an agenda all written out for what you need to do the next day. And don't worry about what you need to do until you come back the next morning. Again, all part of good stress management. Okay, let's have a look at some tips for dealing with bad business that actually burns your time. So, firstly, identifying who your C-class owners are. And a C-class owner generally has 7 characteristics, and here's what they are. Well, number 1, they are generally over-demanding and unreasonable. Number 2, they seem to take up a lot of your time and very demanding with your time. Number 3, whatever the rents are, well, they just want more. They want above market rent. Number 4 is, they like to have less fees or screw you down on your fees. Number 5, they put little to no money into the property. Number 6, they tend to have a low-grade property that tends to attract a low-grade tenant. Also, number 7 is they tend to have a low rent property. It's just, from a business point of view, it's just bad all round. And I bet if you did the math, you worked out what your expense is per property, what it costs to manage each property each year, and then you look at what you're earning from these owners from a total fee income point of view, you'll likely find you're at or below break even. Alrighty, but do a time analysis on your C-class owners, and particularly when I'm working in a seminar, I like to get out the whiteboard, and we put down, first we do analysis of a tenant moving in and moving out in a year, and we write down how long does it take to lease a property, taking into account all the drive time out to a property. It might take 3 visits to a property before you got an application you can work with, and that might be 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, 20 minutes showing through the tenant. So that's 1 hour per trip, 3 hours just to show people through to getting an application you want to work with. It's another hour to process the application, then it's another hour to get the welcome pack, perhaps get the property condition report ready. That might take another hour, then another hour to sign up the tenant, then do all the follow-up paperwork and filing and everything after that. It might take 7 hours all up just for the leasing process. And then during the year, it might be, you might do 2 routine inspections, and with the drive time and the booking and all the work that's done simply because you went to the property, then getting the inspection to the owner, well, that's an hour each. So suddenly 2 routine inspections, well, that's 2 hours. A lease renewal in a year, that's another hour. Doing any repairs, typically on the average property, that might be 3. And then the vacate process, right from when they advise they're leaving, right through to the final inspection, right through the bond refund, and all the complications that can happen in getting tradespeople in or vendors to clean up the property, right through to the refund of the security deposit or the bond. Well, that might be another 6 hours. So typically what we find with that process of a tenant moving in and moving out in 1 year, we're looking at around about approximately 20 hours. And then we do an analysis. Well, what about a C-class owner? So we've got a low-grade property, we've got a difficult tenant, and all those, and suddenly we're actually finding, when we do the analysis through, again, how much time extra now to show the property. It might be another 6 or another 3 times on top of the 3 to show somebody through, because it's hard to get a good tenant to like the property, and that might add another 3 hours to the leasing process. And then we might have to do a couple of re-inspects at the routine inspection, so we add another couple more hours to that. And then what about all the timing chasing late rent? That might be an extra 10 hours over the year. So before you know it, 20 hours is approximately for the average property and the average tenant, but now we're looking at over 40 hours for the C-class owner property if we actually do a time and motion study. And don't think you're earning the same per property per year as your average property, because don't forget, it's a low rent property. They've probably brought you down lower on your management fees. You're probably earning 1/3 less. So before you know it, you're earning $80 to $100 an hour with a average property, and you might be earning $25 to $30 an hour for your time on a C-class owner. That's where we go with these time and motion analysis studies. It's quite shocking when you realize at the end of the day that you're probably earning less per hour. Your agency is earning less per hour than your office cleaner. And also you're earning well below break-even point. So not only are you carrying these owners with all the time and the hassles and the stress, but financially your company is funding their bad behavior as well. My whole point is, do not value bad business, get rid of it. There is no good reason to keep these people. So I'm just suggesting here, work out your income per property, know how much you're worth per hour. Get to know how much time these properties are taking, divide it into the amount of income that you're earning on the property per year. Work out what you're actually earning per property per year and see how low it really is. Now, also, when I'm doing business health checks in offices, I get them to print off their property list, and we go through and we identify, say with a D, long distance properties. More than 30 minutes drive from the office. We identify low rent properties. So this is where the rents go so low, we're getting into the bad business areas where they're really burning our time. Also, if it's a low quality property where the owner hasn't maintained it, in Australia, we don't do this in the United States because you do have issues with your anti-discrimination laws, but in Australia we would also mark down lower socio-economic areas as well. Also write down with an F word, I should say F word, with the letter F, if there's any furnished properties. So before you know it, we've got all these codes next to all these types of properties, and we're getting properties in with 4 or 5 or 6 letters next to them starting to look like the alphabet. Then that's really telling us this is a very difficult property, a bad business property, and the more letters, the more that we have to review them to possibly remove them. And the best way to remove a property is, say, when you get 2 quality properties through the front end that fits all the right criteria, then we exit one bad one out the back end. So we're always growing with quality and growing with revenue, not necessarily growing on workload. Okay, so in this case, you might then list the top 10 of the worst offenders. And then, okay, what's the worst one out of the 10? We'll exit that one first, this one second, and so forth. And it could be a really good goal for the office to grow and to remove this bad business. You might also consider something similar with grading your tenants as well, but always be working towards maximizing the quality of the rent roll, maximizing the yield of the rent roll. Don't always be focusing on maximizing the workload of the rent roll. You can get as busy as you like with the worst business that you like, but it's not going to help anybody when you do that. Alrighty, let's talk about overcoming procrastination. And this was a quote from Mark Twain, and it said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. And that's a great analogy about dealing with really difficult, urgent tasks. And that's led on to a book by the business teacher Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog, that you can get from iTunes, one of the best time management books out there. Well, firstly, what's a good key to overcoming procrastination? And firstly, learn to enjoy a sense of relief and confidence, because with procrastination, that's the deliberate delay of doing something important. You've deliberately put it off. And the flip side to that, you see that first motion there, deliberate delay causes stress. But the flip side of that is a sense of relief and confidence. And you've got to want that more than holding on to the stress and fear that comes when you're in that place of procrastinating. You want the relief and confidence more. So if you want the relief and confidence more, just do it. no matter how you feel. Just do it. Do it first thing in the day. So then, therefore, you get your sense of relief really early in the day, and you're not carrying that negativity deep into your day. Own up to your mistakes early. If you've made a mistake that could lead to procrastination, then own up to it early. Take the power out of the thing. And as a manager myself, having managed 28 property managers over 18 offices, I always made it clear, if you stuff up, bring it to my attention straight away and let's fix it together. And I can honestly say that just about anything is fixable if we get onto it quickly. It's just when it's left to bake in the sun of time and time is added to the mistake, that's when things get more complicated and more costly to undo. So it's always get onto it quickly. Do not hide things in your inbox. Then procrastination can become a habit, and you don't want to get into that. So make sure that you're clearing your inbox there and any matters, dealing with them straight away and not just burying them, because they won't go away. They just get worse. Let's talk about overcoming overwhelm. It's something that we all experience, and it's simply being in a place where everything just seems too overwhelming. We can't seem to mentally get a grasp or have confidence towards the tasks that are in front of us. It seems like a mountain too big to climb. So when you're in that place, what I recommend first is go to ground. Get a place where you won't be interrupted. Also, write everything down, break it into its components. Just the fact that you've got them out of your head and onto paper, that will reduce the stress by 50%, because we just get so muddy in our thinking. We can't have clarity. When we get it on paper, now we can have clarity, start looking at the problems in reality, then handle the problems in an order of priority. But understand that 20% of the issues that's on paper in front of you is actually causing 80% of the stress. So if we can just deal with those 20% of the loudest barking dog right now, it will take 80% of the power out of this thing, and very quickly you'll be back into a place of confidence and back into a place of being in control. But you just deal with it. You've got to smash it through. If you have to work or burn extra hours if required, then burn the candle at both ends if you need to. And when you are back in control again, you feel back in control, then start winding down again and start to get your balance again. If you have to take a few hours off work, organize that with a boss, but absolutely do so until you've got control. Okay, and then work to get your mental health balance and your life balance back again. Now let's talk about how to conquer worry. What can I say? Worry was a big issue for me as a property manager. I had a real problem in this area, and I was successfully able to deal with it. So I'm going to share with you how I did that. Well, firstly, understand that 99% of what we worry about is simply pure fiction. It isn't true. It's actually fear-based, but it's also fantasy-based too. And I call it monkey chatter, that you have these little voices, which is yourself speaking in your head, but it's really lying to you. And it's saying things that are really ridiculous and they simply aren't true. And once we realize that, then we can take control of how we perceive potentially worrying situations to be. Well, firstly, this is how I beat it. Step one, write down what you're actually worried about. You know, write down, my boss wants to sack me, I'm going to get sued, or whatever ridiculous monkey chatter that's going off in your head. What is the worry actually about? Get it onto paper, and of course, keep your notes to yourself because they might look a little bit silly. Now, step two, write down actually what did happen when it occurred. So you write down what you think is going to occur, and then when it does occur, write down the actual results. What did occur? And then step three is simply compare step one to step two and have a look and see how different they really are. How different is what you perceive to actual reality, perceived from fantasy and what it was with fact. And when you do that enough and a confronting situation arises again where you're likely to worry about, suddenly you're thinking in reality, and it brings things into perspective, and you're mentally able to take a lot more control and drive out the voices of worry. This is how I dealt with it. Okay. Let's talk about staying productive throughout your day and being at your best. Well, firstly, see your load as one task at a time. Maybe not see your load as 8 hours at a time or 10 hours at a time. See your load as simply one task at a time. And right now, I'm just going to focus on this one task, and I'm not going to stop till I'm done. Then maybe take a break, or maybe then move on to the next task. Also consider eating every 2.5 hours or so, every 2.5 hours. I like to do that. I have breakfast, 2.5 hours later, I might have a banana or a piece of fruit, and then lunchtime, I'll have something healthy. In the afternoon, 2.5 hours, and I might have a piece of fruit and maybe a protein bar or something, but keeping my metabolism stable and steady. You see, for you to be as productive as you can, you need to be as healthy as you can, because your body is the machine. You want to make sure the machine is well oiled. Don't overuse stimulants, caffeine and energy drinks. Sure, you might have some, but don't overdo it. Eat clean food. Avoid eating processed food to keep your mind and your body as healthy as possible. As I said before, eat fruit mid-morning or mid-afternoon. Don't go looking for that chocolate bar come 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe get your sugars through your fruit or something and just be as healthy as you can. Oh my goodness, take a lunch break. And now a lot of people go, well, I haven't got time for that. Or, you know, when it comes 12:30, where typically you should be having something to eat, you're thinking, I'm not going to take a break because that is an interruption to my workflow. Well, consider this. You might do that and work right through, but I bet you run out of energy and out of productive momentum come mid-afternoon. And then you're just messing around and fifth-faffing around right up to 5 o'clock. You see, that break allows you in the middle of the day to recharge and launch into your afternoon to then take it successfully to the close of the day and finish the race to the close of the day instead of running out of steam mid-afternoon. That's the purpose of a lunch break. Drink plenty of water as well. Keep your head clear. When you lose productivity and you find you're just stuffing around and messing around, and how do you know when you're interrupting yourself? Take a break. Go for a walk down the street. Leave your phone. Go to the cafe. I don't know. You just do something that's going to clear your head, clear your space, and later come back in half an hour or whatever, and then come back with a fresh mind, fresh energy, and get back into it again, but be productive. Put exercise into your agenda as well. That keeps your mind healthy and pumps endorphins as well. It's great for mental health. Also, watch your posture while sitting in the chair. Make sure your computer is at a right level. Make sure you got the correct chair that you're sitting in as well. If you're spending a lot of time sitting in a chair, make sure that you're doing, you've got healthy posture and a healthy work environment. Maybe also look at a couple of YouTube videos there to help you with some more hints and tips in that area. Now, this is something that some people may wish to tell me off on, and there are some offices that go and find a massage person that may be having a quiet Tuesday every week and say, hey, would you mind coming into our office, organize a cheap rate or something, and give people a neck and shoulder massage as well. It helps relieve the tension. And this is an office I went into where a property manager is having a massage, and that's something that office organized. Look, I'm not telling you to go and get a massage, but this is something that works for that particular agency. Alrighty, let's have a look at reducing stress in property management. Now, this is something that you would need to fund, but go and get an all-over body massage and really relieve that tension as well. Have that balance there, that healthy balance, because property management can be so intense. You've also got to have intense balance as well. Also, work out what is your switch off mechanism, what switches you off at the end of the day. Some people, it could be, okay, when I get home, I'm going to go and walk the dog, or I'm going to go and jog around the block 3 times, or What is your switch off mechanism? Is it going to the gym? I don't know. Is it going for a swim? But what is your switch off mechanism? Your end of chapter to go into your own personal life, where you just wash off the dirt and the dust of the day, and now you can step into your real life successfully. Get some intense fitness going. Also, have a laugh. Don't take things so serious. Property management can be such a serious job, but have a laugh. Have a laugh at things. Don't take things so personally. It's very tough in property management because we put our whole heart into the job, 100% passion. We can take things personally sometimes. Just be careful of that. But also practice life balance. Get well-rounded. Make sure you've got those 2 or 3 really close, good friends. Hopefully they don't work in real estate. People that you can really offload to, really debrief to. Make sure you're in a community of people, whether it's Lions or it could be a church group or something like that, but get involved into the community. Make sure your finances are in order as well, because that's going to be a foundation of stress in your life that's going to undermine your ability in property management if you've got underlying stress issues. Also, eat healthy, fitness, all of those sort of things, having good recreational activities. That's all about practicing life balance and being well-rounded and having a healthy mind to be able to bring to work and be as productive as you can, and of course eating well as well. So guys, we're all done. Thank you so much for being part of this 3-part webinar series on getting better, stronger, and faster with your property management time. I'm all done. Thank you very much. Take care.